Spencer Conway's epic solo journey around Africa on a motorcycle has come to an abrupt halt due to a near-fatal shooting in northern Kenya. Fortunately, Spencer's been rescued by his friend Carl, who's organised transport to take him and the broken bike to Kenya's capital, Nairobi. He's now staying at Karen Camp on the outskirts of the city, trying to get over the ordeal. Here he's joined by Sean, a cameraman who's flown out from the UK on Spencer's family's request to check Spencer's in one piece and able to continue with his journey.
Coping with the shooting was really strange because the initial thing was so quick. I literally waved to this guy, he turned around and fired, and the bike came out from underneath me. I jumped back on the bike and rode off. It didn't sink in. It takes time, and the worst part was really the next 6 hours. And after about 3 hours, I really kind of, I have to admit it, I sort of broke down a little bit. Without exaggerating, I was that far from getting my legs shot off, so literally that far from being killed. It was extremely close. At no point did I ever think of stopping the trip, because I've decided to do it and I am going to do it. I would have had to be killed, to be honest, to stop the trip.
With the decision made to continue his trip, Spencer's bike has been repaired by Rick, a local mechanic. Rick's workshop reveals an extraordinary collection of beautifully restored old cars, which on occasion are hired out to film companies. But Rick's passion is definitely bikes.
This is where the Japanese copied and made the Land Cruiser. My fascination with motorbikes started a long time ago, when my dad used to sort of repair motorbikes and look after motorbikes for the priests up country. He'd go to work, I'd jump on a motorbike, play with it, fall down, run it into a wall or a tin house. In the end, I had to learn how to fix it. Because if he did come home and saw that the bike was damaged or anything, I'd be in real problems. So that's where I got my practice. And ever since, I've always been tinkering with motorbikes. Cars I restore, I help the owner, John Rowe. He owns the place. This is a 1926 International SS motor truck. This, in its days, was the ultimate. I mean, if you went on safari or you wanted to cross anywhere, this would be the car. This was the actual car we used in the film Out of Africa, and this is the car Robert Redford drove. John's been collecting these cars throughout, I mean, from a very young age. We collect them all over the place. I mean, up country, if someone calls us, says, oh, there's a car in a shed and it's rotting there, we'll literally jump in the car, we won't even think about it. This is the 1934 Rolls-Royce boat tail. It was brought in by the settlers. It was typical of the settlers in the olden days to bring in these sort of prestigious cars and use them. This was sort of cut up, made a flatbed, and used for transporting milk. It literally turned out to be an expensive milk float. All the cars we have here have been locally found, locally brought in the country. This collection is a good sample of all the cars from the 30s, 40s. Yeah, this is a 1937 Dodge. And this was used by the British sort of police. But this car, for its time, was quite good. I mean, in the 30s, this had hydraulic brakes, straight six-cylinder, like the old cars. You brought an old car, you brought in the bike as well. During the war, when the Allies came in, the Americans brought in Harleys, Indians. The Germans in Tanzania brought in all their BMWs. I've just restored one, an old R11. War sort of settled, bikes were left and dumped in farms and everything, and now they're being found slowly, but not many.
Rick obviously likes his old bikes, but what does he think of Spencer's modern bike? One thing for sure, it's not bulletproof.
I like the Yamaha Tenere. It's very nice. Like I say, a lot of technology, very nice. Only slight disadvantage for us in Africa would be the fuel injection. I think when he got shot at or something, bullet must have gone through. It broke the main caliper plate completely, so we had to take that out, weld it, thread it, and fit it. The rim completely buckled. The back bracket that holds the boxes was gone completely, so we sort of shadowed. Roughly, we made our own out of metal. We copied from right to left. When he rode it with a flat tire and everything, I mean, there was no tire. It must have strained, quite a bit of strain on one gear. So we took that out, repaired the gear, filed it, put it together, and because otherwise we couldn't get parts for that. So we're happy with it. It worked well.
With the bike repaired, it's time for Spencer to move on. But first, he wants to see for himself one of the largest slums in Africa. It's called Kibera. It's estimated that 60% of Nairobi's population live in slums. That's 2.5 million people, and 1 million of those live here. Spencer meets up with Alvin, a resident of Kibera, who explains what life is like in the slum, how people survive, and its future.
Though it's a slum area, many are not capable of getting their daily livelihood, providing for their siblings and so forth. Most of the people, and in fact in Kibera, do live in a hand-to-mouth situation, whereby they only depend on the money they get on that day. The situation in Kibera is rough. Most of the people I engage with are footballers. And these footballers are many in the village because many are jobless. So they turn out to play football. As they say, an empty mind is a devil workshop. We try to break that boredom so as to be something to keep us busy. The government has lagged behind. More and more ghettos are being built every day instead of building new houses for the people. There is corruption and lack of commitment, failure to look for the poor and just concentrating on the rich. I can't say it's the future of Kibera is good. We just have to push life, you know.
Humbled by the residents of Kibera, Spencer realizes how lucky he is. And the next morning he loads his bike and resumes his journey, heading out of Kenya and into Tanzania. Sean, staying on to do some more filming, joins up with seasoned African traveller Jim Wales, an Australian. With Spencer on the bike and Sean in Jim's 4x4, the three of them set off for Arusha near Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. The route from Nairobi to Arusha is straightforward and a good road. It's about 270 kilometres and is easily done in a day. The border crossing offers Spencer distance from the shooting incident, but is also a great opportunity to acquire some much-needed bling. Tanzania is about 4 times bigger than the United Kingdom and has a population of around 44 million.
It's day 84 on my trip, and I've been delayed for 2 weeks, obviously because of my accident and fixing the bike. But I left Nairobi this morning at about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's all been really good riding. I've just come through into Tanzania, across the border in that direction with, excuse me a minute, there's a truck coming. Tends to happen when you do this. Obonia Sambu it's called. It's a mountain up there, and it's been a bit of dirt, bit of tar road, but really good, and it's so nice to be back on the bike. My destination for today is Arusha. It's right down that road, and right in front of us is Mount Meru. But much more exciting than that is on my left as I was riding down, I managed to make out the snow-capped peaks of Kilimanjaro. Not only is it an iconic landmark, but it's iconic to me really in that stage of my trip, so absolutely brilliant.
This route from Kenya to Tanzania is well used by safari tourists travelling between the two countries. Arusha city is the gateway to the national parks in Tanzania, namely the Serengeti, the Ngorongoro crater, and Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. After a long day's ride, and with the light fading, they finally arrive in Arusha and find a campsite.
This is a place called Maasai Camp, which is pretty good, pretty organised, kind of standard. They have rooms that you can rent probably between $12, $15, but I've opted to go for the camping at $5. One little comment about arriving in places. I've got no real specific itinerary. I don't look things up in Lonely Planet, that sort of thing. So when you do come into a town, it's really a case of just asking people. What I do is I say, do you know where the local campsite is? I pop off there if it's really, really rough. And I tend to ask if there's anywhere else nearby. So it's just sort of asking around. So generally you do find the right place.
While Spencer, Sean and Jim are in Arusha, they decide not to miss the opportunity of visiting the spectacular Ngorongoro crater. This will be a 2-day trip with an overnight at one of the permitted campsites on the crater's rim. It turns out that Jim used to be a safari guide, so he's confident he can sweet-talk his way past the restrictions and gain access for a private tour. Leaving the bike in Arusha, they set off in Jim's sturdy and reliable Land Cruiser.
When we got here, we haven't actually gone in, we're on the rim. You can't really see it behind us, but we're sitting on a campsite on the rim of the crater. We skirted it earlier, came across elephants, came across giraffe, zebra. Excellent, really fantastic day. This is basically the setup for camping. So get the fire going, get the tent in place, as you can see, get everything sorted for the next day. Tomorrow morning we're heading into the crater, hoping to see lions, hopefully some rhino and possibly some hippos. So the real proper African experience.
The next morning, they're up at sunrise. Jim manages to charm his way past the security, and they make the steep descent into the crater. As the morning mist lifts, it reveals an extraordinary variety of wildlife living in this unique place.
Left camp this morning at about 6:30 and we've headed down the rim of the Ngorongoro crater, and now we're in the basin of the crater. Now the thing about this area is that all around the edge is a massive crater, and it's basically the animals that are in here have been breeding through generations because they can't get out of the crater. So they're born here, they live here and they die here, and it's incredibly beautiful. It's a completely different ecosystem. We've seen Thompson gazelles, we've seen a hyena, we've seen foxes, we've seen ostriches, and that's about all I can remember at the moment because it's kind of overwhelming.
The crater is believed to have been formed 2 to 3 million years ago when a large volcano exploded and collapsed in on itself. The floor of the crater is about 160 square kilometers. Based on fossil evidence, man occupied the crater 2,000 years ago, and the first Europeans visited the crater in 1892. 2 German brothers leased the land from the German East Africa administration and farmed there until the First World War broke out. The area is regarded as one of the 7 natural wonders of Africa and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Maasai and other tribes are still permitted to live in the area, but are restricted to subsistence farming levels. Their visit to this spectacular crater is over, and they head back to Arusha. In true Aussie style, Jim announces he's getting married tomorrow in Nairobi. So that night, he sets off for the long drive back. Sean has one more day left before he has to return to the UK. So he and Spencer decide to visit a Maasai tribesman who lives just outside Arusha, on a hilltop with a view over the savannah, the land his forefathers had lived on for thousands of years.
My name is Paya. I am a Maasai, and I live in the Lenkijabe village. The Maasai, they are rich Maasai. You can meet a Maasai has 400,000 cattle, and they are selling few of them in order to get food, to get clothing, and for medical. The Maasai normally are not a farmer. Me, I have one wife and 5 children. And I'm a Christian. I start to be a Christian now. And the Christian, they said, you must have one wife. The other Maasai, they have 4 wives, till 10, till 20. It depends on you if you have a lot of cattle. The Maasai children going to town to find their work, they leave their parent with a cattle. For the Maasai, you can go anyway. But nowadays, the other tribe coming to the Maasai places and start buying a land. It's not good for the Maasai because they lose places for grazing cattle.
Not owning any cattle, Spencer doesn't have the right currency to buy a Maasai wife or two, so he continues his journey solo. Sean returns to the UK and Spencer loads his bike and rides out of this remarkable part of the world.
Okay, I'm finally on the road at last. I've just left Arusha and I'm heading towards the Malawi border. It's about 1,200 kilometers, but it's just brilliant to be on the road. Got the tires fixed. Unfortunately, I've got an off-road tire on the front, so it's wobbling a bit at 140, 150, but I'm trying to keep below that. It's incredibly hot as well. It's about probably 32, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
To reach Malawi, Spencer's route will take him 3 days. First, he'll head towards Tanzania's largest city, Dar es Salaam, on the coast. Then he'll take a southwesterly course through the Mikumi National Park, and then onto the border crossing at Songwe.
Just about 60 kilometers from a place called Chilinze. I've just stopped at the side of the road just to get a bit of a break because I came around the corner. I've been cruising at about 120, 130. It's going really well. That came around a corner and there was a truck on its side and just missed it. So I don't know if you can see how much I'm sweating. Anyway, it's hot. I reckon 35. Someone told me it's a really, really hectic road down to Dar es Salaam. Hey, people talk rubbish, hey? Just don't listen to anyone, just do it. Come out here and do this. Right, it's day 90. I just left a place called Chalinde. I stayed the night there, it was fine, no problems. I'm entering the Mikumi National Park, so I'm about 600 kilometers from the Malawi border, so that's pretty good. Great thing about this is it's one of the few national parks where you can take your motorbike in. Elephants about 100 meters from the road. This is superb. Not really supposed to get off the bike, but I'm in a national park, so I just couldn't resist, because you can't get into any of the others. So if I get taken by a lion in a second behind me, let's have a look. No, we're all right. Keeping the bike running so I can jump on if I have to. Got all these famous game reserves, and this one's just stunning, and I've never even heard of it. Ever since I came into the Mikumi National Park, it's just the most beautiful. It's the biggest surprise so far on this trip, apart from the Great Rift Valley in Ethiopia. The only thing is, as usual, the bus drivers drive 120, 130 and almost push you off the road, but it's not affecting me at all. This is absolutely lovely. We've got long sweeping bends, it's extremely green, the road is perfect, the bike's going well, I'm as fit as a fiddle. No, I am. I'm as fit as a fiddle and it's all going well. right, it's the end of my day. It's about 4:15, I think, and I've just spotted a sign here for Riverside. What is it? Yeah, Riverside campsite. So I'm going to head down here. It's a dirt road, looks quite fun, so I'm going to put the helmet camera on and see what happens.
The Riverside camping sign doesn't disappoint. Spencer pitches his tent by a river for his last night in Tanzania. Malawi is a landlocked country, flanked by Tanzania, Zambia and Mozambique. Spencer has entered Malawi at the Songwe River Bridge border. He plans to make his way down the west shore of Lake Malawi, travelling almost 1,000 kilometres to the Mozambique border at Zobwe.
I'm in a place called Candy Beach. It's halfway down Malawi. There's a little town called Chincheche, and it's just about 25 kilometers out of there. It's an absolutely beautiful place. I've done a couple of these campsites. This one is mainly for overlanders. This place is extremely well set up. It's even got like berths, that's the word, for trucks. So they all pull in, they get out, they've got a covered area, they've got seating, all that sort of business. So yeah, very, very well organized, very plush. I'm camping, $5. Malawi's expensive, very expensive, but incredibly beautiful. You know what, Ed? Just when you thought Africa couldn't get any more beautiful, God throws Malawi at you. It is beyond belief. It's absolutely stunning. It's mountainous, it's green, it's got rivers, it's got beaches, it's got infrastructure, the roads are great, the people are great. It's the best country already. Ethiopia was my favorite, then Kenya, then Tanzania, now Malawi. I mean, things can't get better than this. The riding's amazing, absolutely amazing. Any bikers out there, take a holiday to Malawi. Don't have to do the whole of Africa and be mad like me. Just get out there and try it out. Ow! Ah! Bitten by something.
So far, Spencer has managed to travel through 9 countries in 94 days. He still has 22 countries to go if he's to fulfill his ambition of circumnavigating Africa.